No, no, couldn't get there. So
All right. Welcome, everyone. Um, as I mentioned, Ben is running a little late, so he should be here in about 15 minutes. So we've got the massive Wayne Franson act. So, Wayne, why don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Come on up here and sit for a while.
I have comments for you, Wayne.
I could spend the next hour here and I could read all these changes to you,
I think
or I could ask you a question if you have any questions about any of them that I can answer.
I did read all of them.
Thank you.
Nice.
Very good. Okay.
I'm
Um,
dense.
I read them the first day that they got sent to us, and I have read a million bills since then, so I'm.
Got them a little muggled up in your mind there.
I'm sitting there going, okay, I've got to go back.
Carrie, can you make sure your mic's on? I can't hear you.
Perfect, thanks.
Can you hear everybody else, Brian?
So far,
Okay. All right. Well,
So-
I mean, maybe if we just rattle through them one at a time, and so the actually the lead off ordinance is one that could be potentially controversial with regard to motorized vehicles.
Yeah.
So I was going to say,
Yeah.
so one of the things that I think that would be useful, I mean, I think it's really important that anytime we're going to add to the legislative body, meaning the body of law, not this group, but is the why. Like, I think that merits some pretty serious consideration. So maybe as we go through these, if you can just
Give
kind
it
of
some
give
background.
the outline as to why the change is needed, I think
Okay.
that would be helpful.
All right. Good. Well, we got a number of complaints about people riding ATV. They're actually end up digging up some of the grass and so forth. And we looked through our ordinances. We didn't have any ordinance that covered that. So this would be a new ordinance having to do with motorized vehicles in the park. Now, the one issue that there may be some concern on your part or issues, and that's we've identified motorized vehicles as things with motors. That would include electric bicycle, include scooters, whatnot. And so I don't know if you would want to exempt certain of those kinds of things and not worry about it.
Well, because it said on the trails too. So, like, does that mean you can't do a e-bike on the trail?
If it's public facility property, which some of the trails are, then you would not be allowed to do that. Although this is designated as the park.
Yeah.
So this will be unique to the park, I think, more than the,
Why wouldn't we
Right.
Well,
want,
I mean the trail around the park. There's-
oh, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
that's why I'm wondering why we wouldn't want scooters or bikes in the park, because people, especially if they have their kids and they're walking and the mom's doing the stroller and the little kid's on their bike.
Now, if the
E-bike,
bike
though.
doesn't have a motor on it,
Oh.
then,
Yeah, e-bike.
okay, it's
And,
okay.
and the same with the e-scooter, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know.
Oh,
Seems-
okay.
Yeah, I was wondering if we had a reason for electric bikes, because I'll bet there's some people that use them
Mm-hmm.
in the park.
The
especially
thought
on the
was,
trail.
it's got a motor on it. That's an easy way to categorize.
Yeah.
So if there's a bike that doesn't have a motor, then it would be okay in the park.
But I think also to your point, Doral, and I agree with you, but like if you prohibit motorcycles and you allow e-bikes, I mean, the only real meaningful difference is maybe the pollution and the noise.
The
But
power.
I mean, those e-bikes, they can really get cooking.
Yeah, I meant, but like if you're gonna mess up the park, because a
Yeah.
motorcycle's gonna go and do wheelies and do all this, and you're not gonna do that on an e-bike.
True, but there's another, there's a safety thing too, that after
Mm,
we thought about it,
mhm.
kids tearing around the asphalt trail up
And running
there.
somebody over.
And yeah, women with child,
Yeah.
so anyway, that's
So
another
as soon
part
as
of
spring
things.
comes, I'm riding my e-bike up around the park.
Well, you should do it.
So-
Actually, you should leave
Well,
now and go
it
do it
says-
because this is your last
I
chance.
have a question for the deputy. Do you see these kind of motorized vehicles as an issue, or are you mostly getting calls from people who are, that it's their motorcycle or an ATV or a big truck is what I see in the park that messes it up, right? But do you see a big problem with scooters and electric bikes up here? Well,
No, I don't. This is, we talked about it in our staff meeting but I haven't had any calls on electric bikes or scooters on concerns with that.
And I will say that motorcycles tearing up the grass, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
that's a
illegal just
no-no.
by virtue of it being
Right.
vandalism. So this is not intended to stop that. We've already got, I think, mechanisms to
so
stop
why are,
that type of.
then why are we doing it if we already have things in place for motorcycles, cars, or anything else that messes up the grass?
To make it more enforceable.
And safety.
It's-
I mean, I think that you've got
Mhm.
some vehicles that, I mean, they really can get cooking. And I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm not trying to throw Wayne under the bus. I don't know that I am crazy about this, but you're the legislator.
I
so-
wonder what, have we looked to see what other cities' ordinances are regarding electric bikes and scooters in parks that have, walkways and trails?
Do we know?
We don't. We haven't, we didn't explore that. We felt that this needed to be addressed regardless of maybe what anybody else is doing. Now, if you don't want it, that's fine.
I mean, even Salem having their park walkway around, I don't know if they prohibit, I can't remember what the sign says.
I mean,
It says,
can we exclude any e-bikes?
in
And
Provo,
scooters.
ATVs, dirt bikes, e-dirt bikes, whatever that is, motorcycles and golf carts are not permitted in Provo parks.
But the others are. The e-bikes and the scooters are allowed. Provo.
No, it
I'm
said
just saying,
e-bikes.
No,
kids.
it
just
said
thinking of kids
e-bikes,
riding
but
on
it
the
said,
trail.
I know.
what did it say? It didn't
And
say
on the
regular
asphalt through the
e-bikes, did it?
park. And
It says, e-dirt bikes.
E-dirt bikes.
That's a new one.
That's a different one than just a regular.
So
e-bike.
an
It
e-dirt bike.
is.
So you got dirt bikes with a gasoline engine, and then you got e-dirt bikes that are it's all electric.
Yeah.
I want one of those.
me too. I want an
Um,
e-bike.
It says e-bikes are allowed on bike paths.
What about electric?
I know
E-bikes.
Spanish allows them too.
E-bikes are not
Yeah,
allowed on
Spanish
sidewalks.
allows them on their trail because I walk on their trail a lot. And
And
I
I would-
think Salem does too.
I would bet they wouldn't allow any bikes on sidewalks, right? I mean, I would think
Yeah,
that would
that's
probably be.
kind of what this is saying.
I know they
Hmm.
banned everything on 4Bay.
So your entire planning commission liked the electric bikes in there. You said it was unanimous, so.
I mean, it's a small, it's what, an eighth of a mile, couple, 500 or 600 feet that we're saying e-bikes can't go on it. We can exempt them, sure, but we're not exempting them throughout the city or right on roads. It's the
No.
trail in the park. So I don't see that as being excessively limiting. If somebody's got,
This doesn't cover the switchbacks.
No,
No,
this is just the
it's just,
the
it's
park.
the park.
I don't know. I don't like that bikes and scooters are in there because I think that we don't have bike lanes on our roads. And so people who don't feel comfortable driving them on the roads might want a safe place in town that they could ride them around.
I mean, have you been up to the park on a Sunday night?
Mhm.
Everybody's up there in the
Everybody's there.
summertime. And they're riding bikes and they're riding everything.
Their whole families together. I just don't see why.
Up to you.
Jody?
Jody.
Liable if there's an accident and someone gets hit or hurt.
I think that would be inter-parties sort of a dispute, like a vehicle on the road. I mean, the city, we host
of at
all
your
kinds
own
of
risk.
vehicles, so it seems
So
like.
maybe if we do have something, we'd post something that says riding at your own risk on
Mm.
trails or something like that. Because you do have kids that go really, I mean, I've had some kids on bikes that go really fast when I'm walking and you kind of have to jump out of the way of them. And I'm just wondering,
I don't know.
it's both
the-
sides.
There was a recommendation to put a sign up there if this passes, to let people know that there's no motorized vehicles that are allowed in the park area, just to give them a notification. But that doesn't be
Oh.
part of the ordinance. That's just a.
I mean, we have we have signs that say no. We just can't enforce them, I guess, because we don't have a rule against it. But
Say no motorized vehicles. I just don't think
I
we
like
have a
the
way to
rule. I
enforce it.
just, I know you didn't know that we were going to give you a harass you. I just would like to exempt e-bikes and scooters, I think.
I would too.
Brian, do you have an opinion?
Well, we have two e-bikes at home and I've never ridden them in the park. But I also think about the e-scooters and the kids walking with their parents that I've seen up there. So I definitely see what you're talking about, and we don't have any bike paths. So I can see it both ways.
That's not helpful.
I'm late to the party here, but I think we should have a carve out for bicycles or anything else that are single pedestrian. That, you know, if you took the E part of the term out, they would normally be on that path. I think we're creating ourselves a problem if we are restricting things in such a finite way that policing them will become a massive burden on us.
And I think that's a good point. I also think that even in terms of, I mean, I think it's critical that we always weigh the harm that we're facing against the benefit. I mean, I think that I think that we should. This is just my opinion. I mean, you're the legislative body, but in my opinion, I think that we should govern as little as we can, except to prevent something that is a sort of real and immediate threat. And so, to me, I struggle with it in the sense that, I mean, again, apart from the noise and the pollution, and I agree, Carrie, I think there's more power behind dirt bikes, but as far as the amount of speed that can be sort of, I mean, you can go almost as fast on an e-bike as you can on a motorcycle, especially on something that.
Yeah, but we do have a couple of little boys in the neighborhood that I've seen them tearing through properties and and I mean, I know who they belong to, but they have been up at the park tearing up the grass and stuff. I've seen them.
So maybe we
And they're on
caveat that if
motorcycles.
we say except for bikes and scooters, that you're only allowed on the path, not on any other parts. And then maybe a speed limit.
Yeah.
And to your point,
I don't know.
I
How
think
do
we're
you?
getting into minutia there.
I know, but I just don't think we could take away bikes and scooters from families who want to use their park.
And we ought to allow them, period, wherever they want to go. If they want to go on the grass, fine.
No, that's what I'm saying. Say you can use them if you're staying on the trail.
And they come
Sidewalks.
back on. I mean, it gets to be very.
I mean, there's a lot of parks that say no driving on the grass.
Yeah.
It seems to be a common thing, but I don't know.
All right. Well, unless there's other questions for Wayne on that one, chew on it and.
We'll chew on it. We'll think on it for a minute, Wayne.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one. That was the wall one, right?
That's
Next.
The accessory dwelling unit and the wall. These are new definitions that we don't currently have in our ordinances.
Okay.
So, the dwelling unit, the change there is it can now be detached from the home, according to state law. It used to not be able to, so that's being redefined. It can be a detached ADU from the house. So that's what that,
So that's when we're obliged to adopt, right?
Mhm.
Basically.
yes. And the other word is a wall. We don't have that defined anywhere. And basically, we're saying it's a retaining wall and defined accordingly. So that's,
Why are these in the same document?
it's
'Cause it
just
seems like it's so-
convenience.
Okay.
It's in the definition part of
Okay.
that ordinance. So
Yeah,
there's
those
new
ones are
definitions
easy.
for each
Don't have a
one.
problem
Those
with
ones
that.
seem to be pretty easy. And the ADUs that are detached still have to abide by all of our setbacks, et
Correct.
cetera. Yep.
Okay, so those are
I'm good on that one.
Is there any underlying issue with either of these? That I mean, I get the one that we're sort of.
Well, with the wall, there potentially could be as it's not defined, somebody could build a 6-foot wall across the front of their property. And
We don't want that.
that, you don't want that. So
Nope.
this precludes that from
happening.
happening.
Okay. That's a good reason. I wondered why you were defining it.
So. Okay, any other questions on that one? All right.
And then building official, right?
Number 3,
Uh.
correct. It's a cleanup ordinance. We've still got one place there where it refers to building inspector, and it should be building official.
And we're gonna have to clean it up again after the
It may
legislative
be,
session.
yeah, as we go through things and see.
They're changing what what building inspector, building official means and what their qualifications have to be.
We've understood that. Yeah. We're looking
Yeah,
at it.
Jody sent us
Mm-hmm.
an email on that.
I
We-
talked to the sponsor quite a bit about it and said, hey, are you watching out for the little towns?
We may be looking for a new building official.
He might be looking before we're looking. All right.
So
The
that's
one
what
thing I
that
just
is.
wanted to, so as we've kind of seen in some of our other ordinances, is the shall. I mean, that's a pretty, I mean, the obligation that we have is, I mean, it's quite rigid. Do we want to look at that, or is that something that you're comfortable with? I mean, because it talks about shall institute proceedings to prevent. I mean, it be appropriate, but is that something you want more discretion in?
I see where you're talking.
I don't know if we want to change that to may. I don't see any big issue with that.
Okay.
And that may be something to consider as we make this change, add that change to it as well. Give them flexibility.
You bring a good point, though, with certain people who will say, shall, you didn't do this or that.
Well, and then we get it used against us
Mhm,
because
that's what I
we're
mean.
not taking what are deemed by some people to be the necessary measures in the shall language. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good catch.
Yeah, I like that, to May.
Okay.
Mhm.
Number 4.
I thought this one was good. You talked about this before. You increased the height, right?
This the,
We increased the size. And it can't be in the front setback. Right now, a person could put a garden in front of their house. Along the front,
I have a
Have
nice
a
sunny
12-foot
spot right there.
tall
there
fence.
has a few,
where you
there's
grow
a
your
few
best
people in town
tomatoes.
that have
Yes.
their gardens in the front.
Yeah, and they can do that, but they
They try to
can't
pick
put a
it before
fence.
the deer eat them.
They can't
Right.
fence it. That's the main
Oh.
thing here.
But so the ones that currently have that then are grandfathered in?
No, I don't think they have a taller than 6-foot fence
Mm.
in front of their house. This allows a 12-foot one. There may be some here or there, but if they've done them in
Or
the
an
absence of
8-foot
an
one.
ordinance. Because we don't
Right.
have an ordinance that says, our ordinance says if you've got a garden, you can put a 8-foot fence.
Mhm.
It doesn't restrict where that garden is.
Right.
So they haven't been against, and if somebody's got one of these in place now, they'd be grandfathered in.
Okay,
We
that's what I was asking.
take
Because
any
I've
effort
seen a
to-
few that are in the front.
Go out. Although they can't, if there's no fence, they can't put a fence.
Right.
In it. So that's the essence of that ordinance. Okay, next one.
Two. Paper fence.
We're changing a little bit our fencing ordinance, adding to the material that can be used in a fence, adding steel and wrought iron and composite material. When our ordinances were written, their composite material wasn't really used. It is used a lot now.
The question
So-
I had on that one, why not vinyl or vinyl coated? I mean,
You
vinyl
can
coated-
use. That
Vinyl
too.
coated,
You can
Chain
use
link.
vinyl coated.
But I thought we weren't doing vinyl because it was originally because it was a
No.
fire danger. That's why people we didn't allow vinyl in the past.
Yeah,
It's
it's
okay
been
now.
there for a while.
Well, I think it's been in our ordinance for a while. They use vinyl coated chain link.
Well, vinyl coated chain link, but
What does-
just the regular vinyl fencing, I
What-
thought was not,
No, we have
fire
quite a
code.
few.
yeah.
But it says no, it's not acceptable though.
that third line down there, plain, in parentheses, not vinyl coated, chain link fencing. And,
Yeah, that was confusing to me.
and it's in there twice.
Yeah, the top one says vinyl coated and the beyond not lower
And
down.
down-
Oh, I
not
guess
vinyl
it's just
coated.
differentiating it from the, so you've got vinyl coated.
Yeah, so if it's non-vinyl coated
Oh.
fence, then you wouldn't be able to, but vinyl coated you can.
Can I vinyl coat my chain link then? So
Yeah.
it looks better? Okay, that's what I thought it would be better,
Yeah.
actually. Okay.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that second line is allowing non-vinyl coated around sports courts, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And the third line is actually around what the city deems as necessary for security.
right.
That was the change down at the bottom, adding razor wire
Mhm.
to, for
Around the
security
wells.
purposes and opaque building material, non-see-through. We have the 75-foot or 75% requirement, and we don't have to have that for city facilities for security purposes.
Okay.
And we also, the last sentence, we still have agriculture land, and they run cattle on it sometimes. So we're allowing barbed wire fencing to be used. It has been used
livestock.
always, we
But
just
only if it
haven't
has
addressed it.
livestock.
Yes,
So they'd have to get a permit for that or,
yes, any
Okay.
fencing still requires a permit from the city.
okay.
So there's that control with it regardless.
Okay.
Good.
All right.
Okay,
Moving right along.
Retaining
Sports
walls.
courts.
sports courts. This is a major change. We had some issues with the way the previous ordinance was worded. It left some ambiguity. So this takes away that ambiguity, for one thing. And the second thing, if somebody wants to put a sports court in the backyard of their property without a fence, they don't need city approval to do that. It's akin to landscaping. Basically, it's a cement pad and with a fence across it. So we felt there was probably maybe a long time ago, some city overreach where to put a sports court in the back of your property, you had to have approval from the city.
Hold on.
Okay?
But I have a little tiny greenhouse and I had to get approval?
Yes, because there's setbacks associated with the greenhouse. That's one area. And if it's got lights
I mean, I'm
in
just
it,
asking.
that's why. And if there's lights in it, then that's a code thing, and we want to have it inspected and approved as well.
So you don't have to have setbacks for a sports court if it doesn't have a fence around it?
Mhm.
It'd be right up on your property line.
Yep.
Wow.
You may have to tear that out if there's an easement that they cover.
That seems weird.
But we
went
changed our
behind the
fencing
building,
ordinance some time
Big
ago
slab next to my
to allow
house.
fencing on the property line.
Yeah, we did.
So why not a piece of cement? People are going to decorate with this. They're going to have a barbecue in their backyard and pour a cement pad possibly for a barbecue. And so with landscaping, the city really is hands off for landscape approval or plans
How big can they make this slab? Could they make it their whole entire half acre?
if they wanted to.
Hmm.
Why you say you can't do that?
We can't drive an e-bike in the park. Just,
Well, we can now.
But you
maybe
can
not
drive it in
now.
your
Just on one.
backyard.
I'm just on one, so.
You can
But
put
I'm just looking up, thinking about my neighborhood and thinking if I had 3 neighbors, one in the back and one on each side.
Are we
and
gonna
they did
allow-
a whole big whatever to park their RV on or
Okay,
you know,
but
whatever they're
would
gonna
we
make their
allow them
space
to,
from?
to build
Well-
ramps and like a motorbike track in their backyard?
Sure.
Well,
Really?
Wayne, wouldn't it, they still couldn't cover more than 25% of the lot.
Oh, this
right?
says
No.
you can do as much as you
That's a
want.
house. That's a structure that is,
So concrete doesn't include.
You
in
could
this
do your
structure.
whole entire yard.
no.
Concrete.
And
As
why
long
not?
as you don't put a fence up.
Well, I can tell you it's too expensive.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Well, we have some people in town that expense is not an
Probably.
issue.
It's not a problem.
Concrete.
I don't know.
Don't have to mow it, but
We're
So
looking,
it doesn't block anything. It doesn't block views, doesn't block animals, doesn't
correct.
anything like that. And people have the right to do what they want.
It is-
We need to make sure some things are in line, like fences, and buildings, but in my opinion,
That's around-
landscaping.
Then they will have to get a permit.
So,
So fencing is a required permit.
back to Janet's question then, if somebody put in a skate park in their backyard, it doesn't have a fence on it, but it's all concrete, and everybody's over there all hours of day and night, skateboarding and doing their bikes and all of that,
Then
and
they've
it's
got
in your
noise ordinance
backyard.
issues.
sounds fun.
It could be a lot of fun, but you know, where does that infringe on me?
Noise.
Well, only after a certain time at night.
Yep.
So all day long, you could just have.
You can
know,
have
people right
parties
there.
on your property all
Yeah.
day, every day, as long as you don't breach the nuisance ordinance.
But I also think that, I mean, that's sort of, I mean, living in
might
a
be.
neighborhood is, I mean, you know, we all sort of have, I mean, there may be people that don't like your decorating choices. I mean, and
Yeah.
I don't love the idea of us sort of nanny stating, I mean, unless there's an overriding concern. That's the way I see it, is like if there's like an immediate threat to health and safety, then I think that it sort of becomes our responsibility. But
I mean, we have an ordinance that says you can't have a garden that's too big. And yet that's something that
No,
maybe people,
no, we don't. You can have a garden as big as you want, as long as you don't fence it.
Yeah, it's a fencing is the
Yeah,
only
well,
restriction.
I suppose so.
You ever tried growing anything?
And,
Yeah.
and I will say you could have 2 or 3 gardens in your backyard if you wanted to and fence each one of them.
But you can also get one as big as you want,
Yeah.
send in a site plan, and the city can approve it.
Right, but that's the city's
So,
approval. This
Of
is
course. Correct.
Right.
But I think,
But we don't care about garden sizes
well, if it's over 600 square feet, right, after today,
if it's fenced.
yes, if it's fenced over 600 square
Yes.
feet, it needs approval.
Yes.
So I would love no, but that could be abused. How do you then define what is a garden and what is a
Garden or grass.
clay tennis court, you know? So no, I think this sounds great.
So that's the issues that we tried to address
Okay,
in this. So,
And why was it brought to your attention that it needed to be changed?
this part that was stricken out. Well, even before that, it says for purposes of this subsection, we added open air sport court because we have some included in accessory buildings. So they're not, the accessory building is what is of issue. If there's a sport court inside there, we don't care, but the accessory building does require a permit. And that's why it says not an enclosed structure for recreational activities that usually requires a fence to keep balls, etc., from leaving the area. The usually, the ordinance previous said that it requires a fence to keep balls in. There's two ways of interpreting that. One is that you have to have a fence, and another one is it requires a fence, but you may not want a fence. But if you want to chase balls, you can chase balls. So that was the issue before. We had challenge to us, and we withdrew some fines against several people who constructed pickleball courts in their backyard without city approval. So that was the issue that we wanted
I
to
see.
address here with the changes that we
Kind of
made.
the pickleball court thing of having one in your backyard but not needing a fence.
Those pickleball
Correct.
people, I tell you.
Yeah. But then I also think this is to some extent a philosophical shift for us. I believe, and I support
In a
it.
way, it is, yeah. So we could say the same thing and still require city permit to build a pickleball court in your backyard, but we felt, well, while we're changing it, let's lessen the government overreach on what somebody wants to do in their backyard. That's that one. This is a new section on retaining walls, 07, the ordinance. We've defined retaining walls, and now we're filling in the issues pertaining to retaining walls here in the ordinance. This is all new. We haven't had anything like this before in our ordinances. So
Which,
Any questions on that? for Wayne?
we've had two builders look at it, and they felt comfortable with it, the way it was drafted, and felt that it was a good mix. Any questions on that?
no,
Okay. In number 8 on accessory dwelling units, these changes, again, brought about as a result primarily of the state code changing. The first one, the ADU used to only be able to be included in a single-family dwelling. We're eliminating that. The second one talked about internal ADUs. Now, an ADU can be both internal and external. And the part of it on size, it used to require 2 acres. Now it doesn't. So that we scratched that. And also, being a standalone dwelling unit, it can be that now with state code. We emphasized an external in the section 3. An external ADU requires a site plan and building permit and must adhere to the setback requirements contained in 10.8.5. It must also adhere to all applicable building codes.
I like that one.
We clarified that with the external part of the ADUs. Any questions?
Because then that applicable building codes will eliminate some things from becoming pop-up
Yes,
ADUs.
yep.
So when
And a building permit required.
I did have a question on section 4,
Okay?
paragraph 6. Maybe you were gonna, were you done, or were you gonna get to that?
No,
or-
I was just turning to that
Okay.
now.
I don't
But
want
if
to
you have a
jump ahead.
question, no, go
Well,
ahead.
the thing, because we were talking about like different structures being grandfathered in under the previous ordinances, which I think is the right thing. But item 6, it said that the ADU must be inspected to ensure compliance with all city and building codes related to the ADU. That sort of seems like it would be a way to loop older ADUs into a newer code. And I was thinking maybe if we added applicable city and building codes related to the ADU or something like that, because I think I mean, because then it's sort of like, well, what standard do existing ADUs fall under?
Okay, look at item L under that. It says ADUs previously created without a building permit shall comply with minimum health and safety standards, including but not limited to the following. So we want to make sure if that the basic requirements for safety for an ADU, even if it was previously done without approval, that those requirements are added now if somebody's going to want to make an ADU out of building space in their home, that was not previously done with the building permit.
And it makes sense. I just think it's important that we have, in every case, there's a standard. And it's not something that's changing. So if you've built it under one standard and then the standard changes, I guess maybe the expectation could reasonably be that you have to bring it up to the new standards. And maybe that's what you're going.
Yes.
But it seemed like, that could create some difficulties. So I just thought it was worth at least.
How does that work? I mean, because, some people would just say, well, I'm not doing it right. We wouldn't know. But if you're going to sell it, is there a way to make sure that it's updated before it's sold? I don't know.
We have a situation now that we're dealing with where a basement was finished without any permit. And the person's wants to make an ADU out of that basement. So we're telling them that there has to be an inspection done of certain minimum standards to make sure that they meet a safety factor.
Do we let
So
them
in this
know
kind of-
the
oh, sorry.
benefit there for their insurance policies?
Yeah.
Because if they, their house burns down and they have a finished basement that was non-permitted, their insurance potentially could just say tough.
And that's
We're not
their
on the hook.
that's their risk they take when they
And
do
are
that.
Are we using that to our advantage in their education process to
Y-
say, hey,
So
we
we've had
understand that one, it's important from our end that you have permits and that this meets code, but for your protection, you want to get a permit. You want to do this right so that if something happens, your insurance will actually
And-
actually cover that.
and part of the challenge is most people don't do that until after the fact, right?
Well,
Or else they wouldn't have built the basement in the first place without approaching us for a permit. Even so, we don't find out about them until after they're usually finished, and then they come and want to make it into an ADU. Even the state says with an ADU, we have to make sure, even if it's been constructed, permitted or not, if it's an ADU, it has to meet a minimum set of safety standards. They have to have smoke detectors at each of the bedrooms. Their outlets have to be GIFI protected in the right places. They have to have a separate address with a separate entrance. Things like that that we have to inspect for per the state for an ADU, even if it's a previously constructed one. We don't come back and inspect for building permit if it's already been built because we can't. And we've met with one homeowner on this before, Mike and I, our building inspector, because they wanted an after the fact permit because they were new owners of the house. And it's just impossible to go inspect for a building permit after it's already covered. So basically Mike's education to them was, I can't give you an inspection and an occupancy permit for this basement because I can't see all your nail plates. I can't see how it was wired. I can't see the insulation. I can't see that stuff. And, by the way, if this basement causes an issue, you're probably going to have troubles with your insurance company. And so that's an education process that we do give them. But typically we don't find out about this till after it's done.
If they were doing a remodel to make it an ADU, then you can have an inspection. But you can't do an inspection just saying, hey, walk in my basement and tell me if it's okay.
So if it's already constructed, right, we can't go in and say, we've inspected it and we're going to give you a permit. It's impossible to inspect everything for the building code at that point.
But if
And so
they-
it's just an unpermitted basement is what it
If
is.
they're going to turn it into an ADU and use a remodel and get a permit for a remodel, then you could come in
Yes.
and do the inspection and make it so it's legal.
Right. Then we inspect it. If they apply for a permit to do a remodel, then they have to bring that remodel up to the current building standards.
Okay.
So we inspect it under the current building standards. That's building code. If it's a existing basement that they're turning it into an ADU, then there's another set of minimum standards we have to inspect for. Things I mentioned, smoke detectors, GFI, separate
Exit.
address, things like that we have to inspect for before we can give them a permit for an ADU. It's not a building permit. It's a permit for an ADU.
How long do those permits last, the ADU permits?
I think they're businesses at that point, right? So they just have to renew it like a license, business
There's a
license.
business license every year that has
year.
to be renewed.
We only inspect it the one time, but they have to renew their license every year.
But we would be guarding against other types of noncompliance as we renew or do we just, again, coming back to sort of where the standard is, if we fundamentally changed and then they come back to renew their license, I would assume we'd have to go back in and say, okay, well, we've added these new steps and you're fine, or this is what you need to do if you want to have an ADU in our community.
If they're re-permitting it, so to speak, then yeah, then we have to go inspect it at that point.
All right. Anything else?
But we're not
for-
going to have to re-inspect every year.
No,
Okay, that's because
Unless we make changes
that's
to,
change, yeah, that's ordinance changes and something else that we
Yeah.
need to inspect, some state requirement that we've got to look at.
This just skips a lot of things. I don't know what an inspection means, but to me, there's things like parking, there's septic questions.
And those are typically, like we had that issue just come up, and we have to make sure that they got, so the permitting process, the septic permitting process is through the county. We don't really have anything to do with that. The only thing we ask them is that you have to have a letter from the county stating that you're okay with your septic system, if they're going to be adding bathrooms. Because a lot of them, when they're originally, bedrooms, because a lot of them originally septic systems are planned for a certain number of bedrooms in a house, is how they size them. If they're adding to that and their county permit for their septic system doesn't account for that, then we tell them you have to go back to the county and you have to get a letter from them stating you're okay with your current septic system. So we do that as well. And then other things would include safety things if it's already built. Now, once again, if it's not constructed, it's a whole building permit, right? Because if they're finishing something, if it's already an existing basement, so to speak, then we're inspecting for the health and safety hazards we're required to under an ADU, but it's not a building permit. And that's one of the, actually parking is one of the things that as an ADU we have to look at.
Okay.
I don't, Ted, do you want to take this next one or on the illicit discharge? It's the next ordinance.
Yeah, so this one, we've just went through a really good time here in the city over the last year. The state has been here, and for those of you who don't know, we are an MS4 city. Stands for something stormwater, something, something. Municipal stormwater, separate stormwater system, which basically says that our water that runs off our city goes to a body of water that is impaired, Utah Lake. We contribute to Bear Creek and Salem, which then goes to Utah Lake. Because of that, we have to make sure that the water leaving our city is, especially from our city facilities, is essentially non-contaminated water. So we have to control the runoff that leaves our city, basically. So what this is an ordinance in place that prohibits the illicit discharge of things that would contaminate those waters. It's a required ordinance that we have to have as an MS4 city from the state.
but Carrie, if you're looking to champion a cause, this is actually, this is a very expensive exercise for us to
Yeah,
comply with these things.
that's what I was, gosh. So we are adding in there that car washing, so it's saying that you can't, that you're not supposed to wash your car at home?
No, you can't.
That's
Yeah,
a-
you
that's
can't.
a- I thought that was an
That's the
exception.
exception. list.
Those are the
Yeah, those are
exceptions.
exception list. You're right.
But it is something that
We
it-
should look at.
well, and I just know that it's come up a few times, and they're usually really expensive fixes. So I think that the state might inadvertently be really handcuffing us. Man, I get the idea behind, wanting to protect our bodies of water, but I do think that this is something that for small communities like ours, it can be a real expensive burden.
So item like number 1 lets me flush a hydrant.
What's that?
Like number 1 here says I can flush a hydrant.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it's not,
It's not dirty or
yeah,
I
right.
don't think it is.
And
Right.
Ted has great latitude under item 16. He can pretty much authorize
Yeah,
public health
yeah.
and safety. So
yeah,
a big
yeah.
city
So
water
if you
fight.
guys, if I see you guys walking down the street spitting, I'm gonna stop you and kick
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
But it's really, this is an ordinance we have to put in place as part of our requirements of being an MS4 community. The states this is what they require from us.
So I don't see old leaky septic systems on here.
Septic's not considered. They're looking mostly at like,
I know.
they're looking at oils and greases and stuff like that. They're not so much looking at septic systems as much as they are. If you're putting oil and grease and stuff like that in your septic system, then that's a problem. But if it's just sewer, they don't.
Yeah.
That's not.
I'm just.
They don't.
Okay.
So limit the flushes. so it,
But there are people who dump a lot of junk out, so I can see why it's important, but
yeah,
yeah.
I know it is. It's a balance.
it's
that
one
needs
of
to
those
be
things,
found.
yeah.
You don't want to mess with the biome of your septic system. No.
Those are the ordinance changes.
We have a
The other is there's a
resolution.
resolution. Jody, do you want to take that one on? Or I can do it if you want.
The pickleball.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a resolution that would allow the PTR committee to be able to go get a Utah outdoor grant, stating that the city is favorable of the idea, but we can only commit $25,000, and we're gonna have to find a place for where that 25,000 will come from. So that's the max that we're willing to do
For that specific purpose.
for that specific purpose, nothing else.
I have a public comment.
We'll get to that later in the. Yeah, that's item number.
I know.
19.
Are you acting as a proxy for a public comment, or is this your public comment?
No, this is proxy.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Oh.
Well, I mean, if it's germane, does it relate to this?
Yeah, it's to this one. It's just a resident would like to see that lighting is shielded and meets lumens specific in city lighting ordinance rather than vague language that's inserted. Anyway,
Oh, for the
On-
pickleball ordinance,
yeah.
not the resolution here.
yeah.
Can I add a comment?
We're not gonna like.
We're not sure that our lighting ordinance currently would be in violation of it. So I know there's been a lot of talk about changing our lighting ordinance, but we don't know yet whether our lighting ordinance is okay. There's no point in changing it if it's okay. So I just add that to the public comment.
I know, I get it from both sides.
I know.
So the resolution is basically just that it's gonna cost this much, and we're guaranteeing that the city will pay its 25,000. That's what this resolution.
If we have the money.
Yeah, if we can get that
If the
grant.
grant.
If
yeah.
we get the grant, yes, we're not
Yeah.
giving the, unless we get the grant, yeah.
And
that's-
it's only an up to 25,000. It could be less, it could be, that's
It's
kind of the way we wanted to word it so that it was, if we can do in kind, that kind of thing, that it doesn't automatically put us on hook for 25,000.
Yeah, and
Awesome.
it's not part of the PTR budget. It's
Correct.
continu- this particular project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow.
like it.
Well,
Okay,
You
thanks.
survived.
Yeah, that was.
thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
That was a lot of work.
That
Thank
was
you.
really
Wayne.
fun.
We can skip number 11.
The thing we've been.
Sorry,
waiting
Mayor, I'm not
for-
trying to take over. I'm just trying to harass Ted.
Well, I mean, I think that. Good luck.
Yeah, he gave us the precursor for this last meeting.
We knew, we talked about this on Monday, that you would say that. So we
Oh,
were
no,
prepared.
I'm too predictable now. Okay, I gotta.
No,
throw a
you're
curve.
guarding the widow's mite, and good for you. All right. Well, Ted, Chris, I don't know if you want to lead this to start off, or if we just jump right to Ted. But did you have anything you wanted to offer?
I don't know. Ted, would it be safer if I did it?
I mean, no one's going to break that screen.
Can't see me.
No, Ted's okay.
Okay. Wow.
It's okay.
We were gonna put Wayne in on it. Remember, we were gonna have Wayne come out and take this one.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right.
well,
That's right. Wayne. Wayne's
we-
getting thrown under this time.
heard 50 minutes of Wayne, so I think that just
I'll,
for variety.
I'll take the heat of it for him.
That's the spirit.
All right, so we talked about this over the last week or so. We'd approached the council a month or so ago about updating our construction and development standards because they're just not very clean right now and are creating numerous issues. We got a cost from a consulting engineer to do that. It was the 16,000 some change to do that, update all of our standards for us. After going through the last few weeks talking with Wayne and Jody and Chris, we really feel like that's become a little more urgent now to get those updated because they're causing construction issues for us, confusion. And in the staff meeting on Monday, we met and we found some budget for it. So that is one of the purchase requests. We'd like to approve the engineering consulting agreement for 16,000 some change to update our construction standards. Chris can maybe explain where the budget's coming from.
Where'd we find it?
So I'm sorry, this is so small, I can't make it any bigger, but this year, due to some of the legal fees have been less because the city has been winning those lawsuits and haven't had to file too many others or respond to too many others at the point with the ongoing neighbor dispute, whatever we're calling it now. We had budgeted 75,000 in the green right there for the attorney. We've only spent about 21,000. We still have some money left at the trust that is paying for certain parts of the ongoing lawsuit. I think there's one complaint still out there. Somebody might have to correct me. That's being covered by the trust right now. I think we have 16,000 roughly left in that. The most of the money that you see here, we've spent 21,052. That's mainly with our own in-house, not in-house, but our city attorney, the Smiths. So what we were looking at doing is taking the money from this 75,000 budget, reallocating it down to professional services on this next line to 30,000. Once again, the mayor has the authority to do this, but he likes to bring it to city council so everybody can be on the same page and know what's going on and to give their opinions on it.
Thanks, Chris.
So we'd move the whole 75 down to
No, just what we need.
just the 16 to use
Yeah.
for this specifically.
16 inch.
Yep.
Helps us out legally too, doing this.
Yeah, no, this
We
is
can
sort
make
of
a connection to
preemptive
it.
legal
Yeah.
move,
Yeah.
because I think that we stand to potentially find ourselves in other fights that we
Yeah.
don't want because it's not
Because
as
we're not
clear as it should
updated.
be. Yeah, it's just not as clear as it needs to be. So,
Okay.
okay.
I'm not looking, I'm not even looking that way, Janet.
This is for home construction standards, no?
No, this is for our development and construction standards. So when a contractor or developer comes and builds our infrastructure that we eventually take over, it's to update those. And in some part, I guess you're right, because what's happened is we've mixed some of those standards with our home construction standards. And there really needs to be a clear separation between the two because they keep getting confused. So the idea is to update those construction standards and remove those parts that apply to specifically to a home and put them in a more appropriate location, like either the building code or something along those lines, the building department, where they would be more applicable. Our construction and development standards are supposed to be just that, construction standards for development or city infrastructure projects.
This got us in problem a number of years ago with another resident where these things are mixed.
Okay.
With a builder versus a developer.
Okay.
And so the separation of them out will benefit that process as we go forward.
I can see where that could be used against us.
Yeah.
And it has
was.
been.
It
Yeah.
was.
And that's what we're trying to clean up.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
And
We
is
just,
this where we could look at a larger insurance bond? I know we've talked about how our bond is so small, it's really not going to pay for anything that on these subdivisions. Is that something that we can look at there, or are we stuck with what we got?
so we did look at that, Brian, and we are within what the state allows us to do. And it depends on how the developer wants to approach it. If they want to record the plat prior to doing the improvements, they have to put up 100% of the bond. If they do not record the plat before doing the infrastructure improvements, then they only have to put up 10% because in effect, if it goes under, it's not they can't sell lots. So basically, it's just a bankrupt development that we have no responsibility for. So that's that's what the state allows us to do. If they want to record the plat to sell lots before doing the infrastructure, then they have to put up 100% of the money.
What about the longevity bonds? Don't we keep a longevity bond?
1 year. It's a year warrant durability bond that we keep.
The durability. That's what it was. That's what it was. Can we
And that's
raise
10%.
those?
It's the
during
10%.
this process? That's the 10%. Okay. So it's really not enough to do us any good if something goes wrong.
Right.
You can extend it another year with the reason to do so.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what we're obligated to do.
Okay, I was just asking. I just heard you talked about it a number of times and it's not enough money, so.
Yeah, we looked at that quite extensively, and that's essentially where it falls with what we can do.
And I take it this firm is one that's written these before for cities, so that's got some backing, some, we can trust what they're putting together.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
they have. I know their prior manager down there.
yeah, I figured, but I wanted to make sure that it's something that's, tried and true and they've been tested in court type of thing.
Yeah, they've written a lot of standards for other communities, and they do city engineering for a lot of other communities as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, I know they do.
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Ted, help
Right.
me, is it to update the construction standards? Is that what it is called?
Just
Yeah, I wish I did.
hold on, we got
I don't
cross
have that.
talking, Chris. So
Sorry, what was that, Chris?
What, I just want to put a note in here. Is it to update the construction standards? Is that the appropriate thing to put in here?
Yeah.
Updating construction and development standards.
And development. Okay, thank you.
all right. Well, if we're good on that, then we now we got a few things to sell, right? Are there other purchases that we were?
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah. So
Kind of.
we got a helicopter coming. So our fire department helicopter's on its way. So thanks for approving. No, I'm just kidding. Anybody out there listening to this publicly, just kidding.
Right. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Bad one.
Hey. No, I just wanted to update the council on one that may be coming, a little bit out of our hands.
That's right.
So as you know, we share 40% of the Maple Canyon well with Salem. The Maple Canyon well recently has been having lots of issues with cloudy water and stuff like that. Now, we haven't been using that water since about the end of June was the last time. We used it for about 2 weeks, the end of June, and that's the only time we used it all year or this year. But they have been using it in Salem, and it's been getting cloudy and stuff like that. So they decided to take the well down, pull the pump, and send a camera down there to see if they could figure out what's going on. Turns out that after they've cameraed it, it has multiple holes in the casing for over 100 feet. So the only way to fix that is to pull out the old casing and put in a new casing. So that's what they're proceeding to do. The engineer's estimate for that right now. So they're still looking for a contractor to do that work. The engineer's estimate is about $250,000, of which 40% of that cost is ours to redo that well. Various things can cause it. I've seen it from sometimes you get high iron in wells, which that one doesn't really have, that can eat through the casings. Sometimes if you get the pump bowls that sit against a casing and rub it a little bit, they'll start creating holes. I suspect with the length of holes in this one, that it was some sort of something that ate at the casing. What, I don't know, but I've in my previous life, I had a well do the same thing. It was iron, ate a bunch of holes in it. Just high iron, still met all the water quality standards. It just had some high iron and 8 holes through it. But so that's coming. That's upcoming. They're working on getting a contractor right now to be able to do the work. I don't know the timing
So do
either.
we have anything left to sell?
Well, the good news is we've got money in the budget for
Yeah.
this, so
Okay.
this is something that will not have to come.
Yeah, I don't. Chris has pulled it up there. If you want to read
Yeah.
it.
Let me just show you a couple places real quick if you guys are interested.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
So we currently have in repairs and maintenance, we budgeted 100,000. We spent, this is through December 31st. These are the financials I just sent to you guys this morning. We spent 51,000 through, I think, February. So we got a little bit of money there, but what we're going to have to do is go back up into the balance sheet into our savings account. And our savings account right now has roughly $1.4 million in it. We're taking a chunk of that to pay for the new upgrades in the well, which are coming out to be about, Ted, roughly
700-ish.
700,000.
Half of it.
So it's still going to leave us $700-ish thousand in that we could dip into. This is what it's for, emergency repairs and stuff. So
What's the shelf life of casing? I mean, is this something that we would expect every 50 years, every
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the kind of dirt they're in, but most casings, I mean, well, they can go anywhere from, 15, 20 years to 50 years to, it's hard to say, but you don't see this. I mean, you see it occasionally, but it's not like a common thing. And hopefully replacing the casing, I don't know how long that well's been there, but it's been there quite a while. And they don't know how it was originally constructed either, because it was used to be a farmer well.
Oh, okay.
So-
this goes quite a ways back.
Yeah, this goes a long ways back. The city took it over, and so they don't, they don't know entirely how it was constructed and stuff like that. So it's been there a long time. Yeah.
Or actually, there was one other thing. Sorry, we have slated 120,000 to go into that savings account this year right here. And so we just wouldn't put the money in the savings account. We could take it right from that area also. Which we call depreciation expense, but we're just funding depreciation.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, everyone likes water, so we do what we can to
Water's
have it.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then one other one real quick, just to gauge the temperature of the council. This won't come till next for a vote till next council meeting. We got a grant from the county. It got awarded probably about a year ago. And we've just been working on getting it. It got awarded by MAG over a year to go to do a trail study. They awarded us $100,000, of which we're responsible for 6,000 of it. So 94,000, it's a little under 93,008, somewhere around there, is what is covered under this grant money. We signed the contract with the county, which the council approved that by the mayor, and that's all been in place now. Now we have reached out to a consulting firm that's approved to do this work. They've sent us a scope and fee to do it, which magically is $100,000, the grant money.
Weird.
Yeah. I did check with this consulting because it's a local person that helped us get the grant money. Is also going to be doing, his company's going to be doing the work. I just wanted to verify with him that stretches right to the grant amount, and we can't absorb any changes in the city. So if he has any scope changes, that he'll have to, be able to confirm that he can absorb those into what he's planned in his scope of work. And he did say that they did. So basically this is to do the study, and they'll manage the scope and stuff like that. My fault. I forgot to get it to Jody in time to get on the agenda tonight for voting for this agreement with the consulting firm. So if it's okay, and if there's no objections to it, we'll let him know it's going next time for vote. But if we think it's a good thing to do, he'll get started on his side on getting things in place to get going.
How much were you talking again?
Well, it's $100,000 grant, of which
How
we
much
have
is-
$6,000 that we're 62 something is what or 63-ish.
Okay.
Is what we have to pay.
And this consultant, it went through RFP and all that.
No, we weren't required to. This came from MAG, and it's being actually administered by the county. So I met with the county. As long as we pick someone off the pool, the already pre-approved pool from the county, then we can just direct select them off that pre-approved pool. So that's what we did.
Okay.
And as someone who helped get the grant and is very familiar with our city, and I think will do a great job for us, and is also working on the MAG county-wide trail system and also the UDOT backbone system that they're planning for Southern Utah County. So someone that knows the ins and outs of what's going on with all the trails.
It's the person that's come in here before and talked to us about this.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I would assume.
His company's doing so much trail work around here that it just makes sense because they can integrate it with all the other work they're doing.
I think it's an investment in the quality of life for the citizens. I mean, I lived on the Santaquin Bench before we moved here. We built a custom home over there, and we could literally go right out. There was like a little, and we could go and hit the Molly, where the fire was, where the Molly fire was. We could hit that whole plateau, and there's valleys and trails everywhere. And it was so fun.
Yeah.
And I kind of expected the same thing when I moved here. Really disappointed the switchbacks are wonderful, but you can't go ride your four-wheeler really easily.
Right.
Pretty dangerous.
Yeah.
Or just casually stroll.
Yeah. And so I think, quality of life goes to that for the citizens.
Yeah. It's hard to get $100,000 for 6,000. That's it's a good return on your investment there. So
And
Yeah.
those are great.
Key.
yeah.
Okay, but then we've also got some stuff to sell,
Um,
right? So we got a little bit of income from
We do. So coming down the pipe, we're looking at, once we get out of there, the Kubota that no one uses. Now that we have the loader, we won't need it anymore. So that'll be one we'll be looking at selling. We've also got a whole bunch of manhole extensions that I think we're going to probably end up selling. I don't know I don't even know what the plan for those was. I guess to do the concrete collars around the manholes, I would guess, but we'll do that with the road work.
Yeah.
So those are a couple things we're looking at.
And you
selling.
have some plastic tanks to sell that we're not going to store diesel in?
Actually, good point. Yeah, that's another. So we've got steel tanks up at the well, or up at the well, that were slated to be diesel storage tanks that we're looking at selling. I don't, just not sure why they're putting in the basement of our well diesel storage. Not that it's lined and everything, so it's not like it's unsafe to our water system. It meets state for all that, but I think the intention was to fill up our equipment, to fill those tanks up, but just the way they're in, they're really challenging to be able to get gas in them and then to get it back out. Then during the winter, it's, there's like a dozen of them down there, somewhere between, yeah. And so we're looking at probably getting rid of those as well.
We got a bunch of big vats downstairs too, I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're worth anything.
Microbrewery? Is that what you're
Well,
thinking?
Yeah.
well, now you're talking.
Doral, new committee for you.
Use those.
Yeah, eventually we want to get rid of those too. They're a little more chill. We're still trying to figure out the,
I mean, we have the Maple Fest. Maybe we could.
Yeah, fill those with.
That's a lot of maple syrup.
And relations with
No,
their
I'm saying
strain.
we could
So
have- we have
now's a good
beverages
time to get to
too.
the
We
surface.
have some
Yeah.
beverages to
I'm
go
saying
with
another product. Maybe we need another.
there you go. Yeah, we'll just turn this into a Oktoberfest. Is that the one they have up
The
there?
Maple
or
Fest in the
whatever?
spring and Oktoberfest in the fall.
Not a
Well,
bad
let's
idea.
get some money going
Hey,
here.
Doral, there's your retirement.
We are looking at
Yeah.
those vats too. It's just the logistics of trying to get those out. We're still trying to figure
So
that
right
out.
now, you're gonna put the steel tanks, however many you have, and did you call them manhole extenders? Is that what you call them?
Yeah.
The risers.
Yeah. they're-
Risers.
So the
They're-
steel tanks are not going up for
Yeah,
sale.
there's
There's a
there's some
different
work
deal.
there. yet
Yeah,
to be
they're not
done.
going for several. And the Kubota probably not till we can get up and get
Oh.
it out of there either.
Okay, so those are off the list. Only the manhole things are on the
Well,
list.
they're all on the list. It's just a timing.
Just
we-
on the horizon.
On the horizon. We can't get the Kubota for
Oh.
sale till we can get up there and get it started and off the hill. And it's sitting on a bunch of snow up by the tank right now. The steel tank's kind of the same situation. We got it up there. We got to figure out how to get them out. So they're all things that'll be coming up. Just timing will be different for each of them.
Okay. Well, while you're here,
While you're here.
I don't know that I've got any other updates unless you have questions. Our well project's a little bit slow and will be even slower because they're ready to replace the pump up here at our well to put the larger pump in. But I can't shut down this well now because the Maple Canyon well's down. So till the Maple Canyon gets fixed and back up, because that's our only water source when they take this one down. They're going to need about 2 weeks of ours being shut down to get the pump pulled and
We don't want
replaced.
2 weeks of cloudy water coming because we would never
We will
the
hear
end of
about it.
Yeah, and so well, we can't. It's down right now, and so there's no way to even operate it. The pump's not in or anything like
Do they
that. So
know when that completion date of that repair is going to be?
still trying to get hold of a contractor. They haven't been able to get a contractor
they
lined up
Talk
yet.
to our contractor.
Yeah.
We're not
Um,
working on our well while we're waiting on that one.
Yeah, different service, but
Okay.
yeah, we need a well driller, and this guy's not a well driller. So that's who's going to do the casing. So that one's delayed a little bit. We still have the micro seal project coming up as soon as we get good weather. Micro sealing about 7.5 miles of road here in the spring, late spring. And that's
yeah, thank goodness.
Just
Okay,
wait till Monday.
perfect. Thanks, Ted.
yeah.
Okay,
Fire
Wayne?
department? We don't have fire department?
Well, I figured that if Ted had anything to say about that, he'd say it.
Yeah, no, fire department's great. Been going on fires.
Did you get your?
SCBA's, the SCBA's that got approved last time, they will be coming next week. They're going to come
Awesome.
and train us on those next week, next Thursday at our training. They'll be here with them and train us.
Oh,
on
good.
Good.
That's awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just quickly, there are several code ordinance violations that we're working on. I want to go on the record too. Our Deputy Dotson, is helping with some of our ordinance enforcement, so we appreciate his efforts and what he's doing. Sometimes he can be more effective in doing things than can the city.
It's that
So
badge.
It's the gun.
yes, and the uniform,
Taser.
Oh, the gun.
and I think the good looks help too.
Oh, it's his
Oh.
size. He says it's his size.
Oh, yeah, it's massive.
So just want to let the council know.
All right.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
For your efforts. Okay, with that, let's move on to reports. Personnel, so the only thing that I was going to comment on is we're looking at the insurance for those in our city that are utilizing it. And Janet, thanks for your efforts, and Chris on the finance committee and the committee at large. Just as kind of a heads up, so we are up against a fairly tight timeline. So the finance committee is going to be meeting on the 5th, and they're going to make some recommendations. And then my intention is to make a decision, but you are the group that will be agreeing to bankroll it or not. And so I'm going to try to, but we have to make our commitment by the 10th of March. So we will not have another city council meeting before that decision needs to be made. So I'm going and working with Chris and kind of getting to a digested version for your consideration. What our
Mayor,
options.
I was able to get that extended to the 15th. I don't know if that's going to help us or the 17th, sorry. I don't know if that gives us an extra council meeting.
Let me check. But
Yeah, we
that's
meet
good
before the
news.
17th.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. To give us
The
the
mem-
11th.
I'll report on it in a minute.
The what?
I was just gonna say, they've all been reaching out to different companies and different cities and getting comparisons, but I'll report on it in a minute because I have to report on finance.
We meet on
Okay.
the 11th, so
Yeah, so that actually is really good. So we won't have to do it. So that's good to hear. So we'll get that information. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I think that it's important that we offer competitive benefits, and we've recruited certain individuals with our benefits being part of the recruitment deal. And so I think that it's critical that we maintain that same level of benefits, but at the same, we want to be careful in what we spend, and so we're going to be looking closely at that. So anyway,
I thought
Just-
that was a bait and switch we pulled.
well, it may yet be.
No, it's not gonna be, don't worry.
You mean the guy who
I'm
holds the
fighting for
water
you on this one,
in his
Ted. I'm
hands?
fighting for you on this one. I have to balance it, you know?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that's it on personnel as far as my report goes. Councilmember Hilliard.
There was an emergency management meeting today that I was I was not able to attend. Were you there, Carrie? Was there anything in that meeting that was pertinent to this body?
there's a lot of trainings coming up that we're invited to go to and participate in. And we talked about some legislation, that's emergency management, and we talked about some possible grant money and what's happening with federal government versus, so there's some cities who are still waiting for some of their flooding money that was supposed to come from national, which is now on hold because all grants and things are been stopped for a little while with the current administration. So there's some cities that are struggling.
Well, thank you for being able to be there. I had my real job get in the way for once, so
Imagine that.
it had to be
You
done.
mean you have to earn a
So,
living?
Pay
well,
the bills.
I'm not very good at that part of life, so I try.
Well, thank you for everything you do.
Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Thanks. Councilmember Hutchings.
So we have not had a Public Works Committee meeting. I don't think we've had a Park Trails and Rec since we met. We did have the presentation last time on the pickleball court that we're going to be voting on tonight. And Wayne went through everything we did in the very long planning commission meeting, so I don't need to reiterate what he's already done so well.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Kinnison.
All right, in public safety. Fire department's always looking for volunteers, fire and EMS. We can always use more help. Put March 13th on your calendars for the appreciation dinner. It'll be here at 6:30. And I haven't talked to Ted about this yet, so I'll throw him under the bus. We need to schedule a chipping date, I hope.
We have it.
Oh, here he comes.
Tipping day is May 19th through
Yep.
the 29th. Just coordinated that with county today, so I think it's going to go out on our newsletter.
Very good.
So May 19th will be the starting of chipping days.
19th through 29th.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think it's the 29th. It's
Yeah,
the
that's what I
last 2
have.
weeks of May, ending on a Thursday.
So all piles out by the night.
By the 19th. All piles
Yeah.
out by the 19th. We'll send out the same rules, stacks 3 feet on the edge. If you want a tarp, place it down, traffic direction of the wood pile, trunks,
Yeah.
no
Once
route.
they pass your street.
Once you pass your
done.
street, you're done. Or we'll send all that stuff out. Yeah,
Yep.
same stuff.
Sweet.
Thanks for surviving throwing under the bus. That was good. And I don't have anything else. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you. Councilmember Lunt.
So Finance Committee, Mayor already talked about that, but I was just gonna say, for the rest of the council, they're vetting that very carefully. So the members of the Finance Committee, have been meeting or talking or, to different PEHP, United Healthcare, like different, even different brokers. I had one that I, had them call and check on some things. So they are doing quite a bit of research. Aaron Lowe, he has quite a bit of knowledge in that, and he's done quite a bit of legwork on that too. They also reached out to other cities that had similar employees, or similar structure to see what they offered their employees to make sure that we're not way out of whack. And we are kind of offering a lot. Like we do kind of have a Cadillac policy that we're giving to our employees. But I think, I think it goes back to years ago when my husband first started as a school teacher. The pay wasn't great, but you took the job because of the benefits. So it was kind of part of your pay, right? And it's actually not the case with educators so much anymore. But we're looking at all of that. And we're meeting again March 5th to go over all the final results. And then communication team, I think everything is going good. I did nag everybody yesterday and today for newsletter stuff. I think so. And if you have anything else you want me to put in, like maybe the specs for it's early. I don't know that we'll just have to mark the calendar. We can do that later. And then events and volunteers, we're gearing up for Maple Fest. That's our next big thing. So
April 19th.
Yep, April 19th is the Maple Festival. They've all been working hard on it. I saw even like Monica Bambro was doing some things. So a lot of people are working on them. They've been checking the lines and different things. So,
Lots and lots of sap this year.
and we've made lots of
Oh, really?
reservations.
A bounty crop, huh?
It's been good weather. We've I think twice we've done our barrel, twice now so far.
That's cool. So, yeah,
We have SAP. Where can we take it to?
Oh, just call Amanda and they'll come and pick it up from you.
Amanda Thorne. Yeah, you can call Amanda or Sherry Berger, either one. But they've been arranging everything. We've got the sheriff reserved, all the things. So that's coming along nicely.
So just that is I'm guessing we will be back from the league training in St. George.
Yeah, because
It
we
does
come
end
back
that
on the
same day.
Friday. I know.
On Friday.
We usually
Oh,
drive back
okay,
on
'cause
Friday.
I had it on till Saturday, but okay, so it's
Just
just
stay an
until
extra
Friday.
day and playing and
Wow.
going golfing and all that.
Driving 3 hours, make it worth
They
it.
do want, they did talk about, and I think they talked about, they would like us all to be there and be
Yeah.
involved. And I actually would request that for, as much as it's possible for all the city events. Citizens like to, see us there, be able to talk to us.
And they are going
Bend
to
our
keep
ear.
it this third Saturday of April every year.
Okay, well, I think it's a
So-
cool thing.
And they
so-
talked about maybe having us, they're not going to, but the idea of us flipping pancakes. in the-
Pancake eating contest?
But I don't think they're going to do that anymore, but they still would like a way for us to be there and be involved. So I think they're working on what they want us to do, but they kind of want to give us a job for it. So
I think that's great. Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Councilmember Malkovich.
Okay, nothing on Public Works. I met with Congressman Owens the other day, and I did ask him if we're going to be having grants this spring, and he's like, we don't know yet. So it could be one of those that once the grants are turned on, we only have a few days. So, but we're ready. Community development, we're having the town hall on March 25th in conjunction with our city things. And then with the league, I'm not going to go through all the bills because we have 270 bills that affect municipal government right now that are out. And so we're tracking them. We have meetings every single day. And we're making lots of phone calls and meeting with lots of different legislators and committee members, and we'll see where it goes. So if you have one in particular that is important to you, please let me know because I'm talking to them every day about all sorts of things.
How about for every new law passed, they get rid of one old one?
Some of
Or
these
five
are
old
some
ones.
of these are cleanup bills, right? But a lot of them are not, and they have what's called a 0-0 budget. So no ongoing money and no new money. And so if they're passing something, it has to come out of the committee's already allocated funds. So they are doing a little bit on that side where it's not more spending. They got less money than they originally thought by quite a few million. So I don't know. They're kind of going back and forth on if they're still going to do the tax cut or if they're going to keep some of the budget the way it is. It'll be something to watch. We've only got 2 weeks left.
Okay. All right, anything for upcoming city council meetings beyond that talked about?
I had something. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. I wrote it down.
Okay, well, that'll have to be the next council meeting. You bring up the next council meeting topic.
Probably wasn't important.
Okay, well, let's reconvene at 7:30.
okay.
We're a couple of minutes late. Let's get started. We'll call this meeting to order. And we will ask Councilmember Hilliard if he will offer our invocation and council. We do have a guest. I don't want to sidestep you, Doral. Would you care to say the pledge?
You usually get extra credit if you lead the pledge, right?
You know the pledge, right?
Just got to start right pledge and then after that, everyone else.
Yeah, then just kind of mumble. Is that okay, Doral? Sorry to. Will you do that for us?
What is your name?
Okay. Yeah, but we'll wait till after the prayer and then you can say it. All right. Thank you.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are so very grateful for this wonderful day to be able to come together as a city council of the wonderful city of Woodland Hills. We're so very grateful for thy love and for thy kindness towards us. We are grateful for thy protection also. We pray that thou wilt watch over our dear city, that we may be able to continue to be blessed, that we may continue to be protected, and that our residents may be able to be safe, that they may be able to be healthy, and that they may be able to continue to live prosperous lives. We pray for our staff, for all that they do for our city, above and beyond even their job descriptions. We're grateful for them. We're grateful for their families and the sacrifices they make on our behalf as well. We are so very grateful for all that thou hast granted us. We pray that thou wilt guide us as we make decisions that affect the future of our city, that thou wilt guide us to make the best for our residents. And we say these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Expertly done. Okay. We will open the public comment portion of our meeting, which is you three. Comments?
Get more extra credit, Victoria. Give a public comment.
Are you outraged about anything you've heard tonight? It's time to make it known.
Oh, can I say something?
Please.
You're looking at a sport court amendment. We moved to Woodland Hills because my husband couldn't stand the bouncing of basketballs right up against our house. We had a neighbor who on one side had a sport court right next to our house, and then on the other side they did, and it wasn't fenced in. So we constantly had balls going all over. And as much as we love listening to it, kids having fun at 11 o'clock at night when they have their big parties, it gets to be a problem. And I can know it's a nuisance ordinance, but nuisance is also in the eye of the beholder, I guess. And so it's debatable what's a nuisance and what's just someone enjoying their property. We've also seen in the city people who have built sport courts that are open air that have taken some liberties of building onto other individuals' property. And it's caused their neighbors money to go and fight it, because it is a neighbor dispute between two neighbors. And if we don't have some kind of permitting process for these, to at least inform them that you can't build on your neighbor's property and then expect your neighbor to give up their property, or tell them they can enjoy your sport court that's on their property, that's not right. So that's just my 2 cents on sport courts.
Okay, thanks, Jody. Well said.
Good perspectives.
Okay, if there are no other comments, then we'll close the public comment portion. Move on to item 20, January 28, 2025, City Council meeting minutes.
A motion to approve.
Okay, a motion to approve by Councilmember Malkovich. Seconded by Councilmember Lunt. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Brian, you're actually muted. I
Sorry, that was an aye.
But, okay, that motion carries. Item 21, ordinance 2025-01, adopting city code 6.1.2, traffic other violations.
I still don't like that we are excluding e-bikes and scooters. Other cities, it seems to me, are allowing them. We want our park to be used by our citizens, and a lot of them do ride bikes to get there. And so I would suggest that we amend that or table it.
Well, I'll make a motion, if that's okay with you, Carrie, to pass this ordinance excluding scooters and bicycles from the e-powered side of things.
And I would second that one.
So
Before we vote on that, what would you think of making it on the trail only? Bicycles and scooters allowed on the trail only.
Sidewalks.
I don't care if they're in the grass, personally. I've never seen a bicycle hurt grass.
I think an e-bike, now we're talking probably signage at the park, which I think would make sense. I think posting a speed limit
Trail.
makes sense. But I think those would probably be another, resolution or ordinance of some sort to delineate those.
So what I would suggest, if you want to specifically exclude bicycles and scooters, is you should expressly exclude them, because the way it would be written by just deleting them would still arguably allow for it to be enforced, at least as a
Oh,
matter of-
so you're
It
saying,
says including, but it's not limiting.
okay, so strike them from above, but then also down below, add another line basically stating
That's your intent.
e-bicycles and e-scooters would be allowed on the trails of the park,
I think
sidewalks and trails of the
based on
park.
what you're
That would
proposing,
be
I think
that
it
would be my
better to
proposal.
offer
Yes.
an express exclusion of them from. the
Is
ordinance.
is that enough for you to understand what I'm saying, Jody? So here it says,
We say excluding.
so motorized vehicles right at
Scooters
the
and
end there
bicycles.
may park in the designated parking lots. This this would allow, no.
Excluding scooters and bicycles.
So I just I delete scooters and bicycles from the first line. And then at the bottom, the only exception is scooters and bicycles, which would be allowed or which would be permitted to be ridden on the paths and sidewalks
Well, you
or
could put
trails and
are not
sidewalks.
permitted, comma, and then excluding scooters and bicycles, comma, to be ridden. Because then you're specifically, because that's what you're saying is
Well, or you could even
specifically
say
saying.
this ordinance does not exclude the use of
Yeah, leave that.
Yeah.
e-bikes or.
That would work
scooters.
as well.
Yeah.
Does that mud make
Yeah,
sense?
that mud is completely muddy in the water.
Perfect. Okay, so
Yes.
motorized vehicles, both gasoline, diesel, and electric powered, including ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, snowmobiles, etc., are not permitted to be ridden in the physical facility district, PF, designated as the park, including on the grass or surrounding trails, unless approved by the city officials is given to do so. Motorized vehicles may park in the designated parking areas of the park. This ordinance would not exclude the utilization of trails and sidewalks by bicycles or scooters,
Well, it would exclude.
electric bicycles or scooters. That
Well,
clear enough?
You're excluding them from this ordinance. So not excluding is not the right word because you're excluding them from the ordinance.
This ordinance does not exclude the utilization
Oh, I
of
see.
electric bikes or scooters. That is my. Okay, Ted's got it. Perfect.
Okay, I can do that one.
That is my motion.
Okay,
Carrie will second
is
that.
there a second?
Yep, I do.
Okay, so Councilmember Hilliard motion, Councilmember Malkovich second, Councilmember Malkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Lund. Yes. Councilmember Kinnison.
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
All right. Go. Item 22, ordinance 2025-02, amending city code 1021, zoning regulations, definitions to include a definition for accessory dwelling unit and wall.
I'll second it.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Lunt, seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. Councilmember Hutchings,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt. Yes. Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
Okay, that carries. Item 23, ordinance 2025-3, amending city code zoning regulations, enforcement authority, changing building inspector or building official.
I'll make a motion.
So do we want to amend that? We talked about amending it from shall to may.
Oh, yes, yes, I want, yeah, let's amend that to the shall and may. I wrote it on this side, but not on this side, so yes.
Okay, so did you make the motion?
Uh-huh.
then? Okay, so
Yep.
a motion by Councilmember Malkovich,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Lunt, Councilmember Malkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt, Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
That motion carries. Item 24, ordinance 2025-4, amending city code 1011-8B1J, landscape features, fences, walls, driveways, and culverts.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hutchings. Councilmember Hutchings,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
Carries. Item 25, ordinance 2025-5, amending city code 1011-8B2A, type of fence.
Motion.
Motion by Councilmember Malkovich,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Lunt. Councilmember Malkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
Carries. Item 26, ordinance 2025-6, amending city code 1011-8B5, sport courts.
I have a problem with this one.
Yeah, I do too. The whole, like, skate park in the backyard. Sorry. I'd like to table this.
Okay. So we have a motion to what purpose? Are we looking to, are you looking to change it or kill it or what's
Kill
the,
it or change it.
but do you want it to go back to the planning commission for revision or?
I think there needs to be more clarification. I don't think you should allow just that they can.
There's no
Like,
limit on
there's a house up
size.
next to me that clear cut their whole lot, and that's not why we live in Woodland Hills. Like, I just don't think that should be allowed, and I don't think that someone should be allowed to cement their whole backyard. I'm all for property rights, personal property rights, and I'm here to tell you, we're probably not in compliance with all the ordinances, because it was done a long time ago, and my husband kind of does whatever he wants. But having said all of that, I don't.
I think also Jody brought up a good point with the
Wayne will be
sports
up by tomorrow.
court. You know, if
We
it's, if
already know.
Jody brought up a good point with with her argument against the sport court in that if somebody puts it right on the property line, yes, we could say they got a survey, but we know up here that two homeowners can get a survey done and it will be a different line. And if somebody builds over just even a little, that's an infringement on those rights, and you don't know until you come home and there's a bunch of stuff board there. So to me, it either needs the site plan, it needs a setback, needs a size restriction, or there needs to be either a conditional use permit or at least a site plan that shows us where you're putting it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like that's infringing on property rights, that you can have something, but
Yeah, it
There's-
does need to be.
there needs to be some clarification with it.
I think there needs to be.
Okay,
I
so.
think we need to have some oversight.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that the nature of the motion is specific, like if it's just like, we don't want this at all and stick with the original ordinance, or if you
I'm
want the
voting
planning.
against it if we're voting, so.
I actually don't mind this ordinance if it only applies to R19s. I
Okay.
think there it makes more sense than up in, 1 to 2 acre plus lots. I think this in the R19 areas of our city makes sense.
Okay,
This is one of the reasons that I ran for city council, was to protect our way of life and to not have.
Janet, can you check your mic? I can't hear.
It is off, sorry.
Thank you.
This is one of the reasons that I ran for city council, was to protect our way of life up here, to live in the woods, in the trees, and to not live in a cement jungle. So if we vote on it, my vote is a no.
okay, well,
Well, your
and,
motion was something
table
different,
it.
so
I'd like to make a motion to table it.
and so, but do we
Make a
want to
motion
table
to
it back
table
to the
it?
drawing board with?
Are you indefinitely tabling it? Are you
I would
giving,
do it indefinitely.
are you giving that
can't
motion
do
to
Yeah, you can.
table to have it go back to the planning commission to review for certain criteria? What is that motion so that residents
feel
know
like
in the
doing it now.
Generally,
future?
that's a tabling outcome of that, rather than just vote against it. And then we can go back and do some revision of it,
Yeah, and
rather than table it.
then I'd like to send it back to planning commission, and I'm sorry. I don't want to necessarily shoot it down completely but I do think there needs to be oversight.
Okay.
I don't think we can just give people that they
Carte
can
blanche to just clear cut and put cement down
and make a
everywhere.
skate park in their backyard. I just don't think we should allow that.
Okay,
And
so
that, excuse me,
go ahead.
that goes way beyond the pickleball thing. Now you're saying how much of your backyard can you cement?
Well, then it should limit the size because the pickleball does have a determinate size. So it should be stated.
Or we get them, they have that use permit that says, oh, I want to do a pickleball court, right? And then it comes and says, okay, it's this size to this size, and this is where I want to put it on my property.
I mean, went back to the greenhouse, but it was simple. I mean, I drew it out and measured it and said how far back and submitted it. It wasn't hard to do.
But there's no restriction on the size of a greenhouse. What I heard you say is you don't want somebody to cement their backyard.
Right.
So then that leads to another question. How much of a backyard can be cemented? A basketball court, which is larger than a pickleball court. We've got one person who built a whole basketball court in their backyard. So there's other things that are
But they had
coming
9
into
acres.
play by what
And they got a
your
permit.
preferences are. Well, kind of.
And they had to do a site plan, and they have a fence up.
And they did it
I mean,
wrong.
We listening to our public comment today, right? Our public comment.
I guess to
was,
Wayne's
there's a
point,
problem.
if you put restrictions on something, you've got to give us a mechanism to review that for the permit. In other words, when someone draws something up and submits it, we're going to have to look at it for location and size and stuff like that. So just to say, I don't like it, doesn't work for the permitting process. We've got to have some guidelines to review that if it's going to go through a permitting
Right.
process.
I think that's why she wants to send it back to get the guidance.
So
I
either,
would
yeah,
say-
either the motion is you got to go back to planning commission with them coming back with a recommendation, or give some
If you're going to
guidelines.
send it back to plan commission, I would suggest you offer them some guidelines as to what you're
Absolutely.
in an ordinance. So
And
Is
we're
that-
fine with that. That's
Yeah.
Not an issue.
I know. Suddenly I feel like I'm on this.
Well, I'd say setbacks and size.
Yeah, I think I would like to see some setbacks and I would like to see some size or percentage limitations. And again, I do believe in personal property rights. I do want to do with my yard what I want, but I also don't want my neighbor to have a huge eyesore that I can't live with on their property.
Okay,
is
so-
the- Is the size limitation then only pertain to the pickleball court, if they can build a basketball court larger in their backyard? Those are issues, and maybe we can talk offline about it and see what some of
Or
your.
some-
thoughts
yeah, I
That's
don't think
a-
that it needs to be.
But I don't think
crafted
it's
here.
just me. I
No,
know it's
Me too.
Yeah, no, I just am looking for a motion. So all I'm looking
Well,
for
and we
is
have
a
some
motion
people
for what
who
you
have
want
tennis
done.
courts that are really big. So you have tennis courts, you have basketball courts, you have regular sports courts, you have pickleball courts. So
I'd like to make a motion to table this and send it back to the planning commission for them to look at some permitting requirements. I would like to see some oversight before someone pours a slab of cement that would either be a pickleball court or a basketball court in their backyard. I would like to make sure it fits within the setbacks, that it's not going to cross over a boundary line. I just would like some oversight. I don't want people just going and being able to do it themselves without someone reviewing it and making sure we're not crossing property lines and things like that, and that we're not infringing on neighbors.
You got
That's
that
really
motion,
long.
Jody?
You
What's
can
recorded?
condense that, but I'm just saying, like, that's how I feel about it.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I do
If
too.
somebody can say it more
I'll
concisely.
second it.
okay, so we got a motion by Councilmember Lunt, seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. This is not a roll call to table, right? It is a roll call to table. Okay, Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt.
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison.
No.
Councilmember Hutchings. Brian?
No, sorry, I was thinking.
No, you're good. And I wasn't trying to rush you. Okay, well, the yays have it. So back to the drawing board with you, Wayne.
When
and
would
hope-
you like it back here?
Is it on me?
That's the table. I mean,
Well,
that's part of the tabling of a motion.
Well, it'll
next-
take you a
you tell
minute,
us.
won't it?
Yeah,
so 2 months.
Couple months
okay.
As soon as
before,
it works for
before spring, late spring.
Yeah, when people start thinking about
Start building
pouring.
pickleball courts.
Yeah.
And like we did with retaining walls, kind of shoot it to us. We can kind of add and work the words with you because I think that process worked really well.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I know you guys work hard on these and I do feel
No.
bad.
We're,
It just doesn't set well with me. Sorry.
Didn't with me.
okay. You want more government control?
Yeah.
I don't. I don't, but there's a fine line. I don't.
We'll work on it.
I think
Okay.
I'd
Alright.
like to see a carve out different, like we do with our fences, a different for R19
Different
versus
zoning.
different zoning.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful
Because I
too.
think R19 is what brought this to our attention predominantly, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the way you wrote it, like for me, I'd have no problem passing this ordinance as written for R19 today.
I agree.
I would love to see something though that also extends up into the rest of the city as well. And that's the only reason I voted in favor of a table was for us to create that delineation.
So I honestly think that's bad logic, Ben. Because if that applies to R19, if they can go over somebody else's property on an R19, they can go over somebody else's property anywhere. So if you're gonna allow it in R19, you've gotta allow it in the rest of the city as well. So I think if we're gonna have oversight, we gotta have oversight over it all. But I just want to point out that argument doesn't really
In
work.
R19, it's platted and the property lines are clear.
Yeah,
Up here in the woods, they're not so much.
you're never allowed to do anything on somebody else's property anywhere.
Well,
That
anywhere.
yeah.
I mean, that doesn't matter. So if we need government oversight, we need it all over. R19 or the rest of the city.
And our properties do have corner pins.
Sure.
All you need is a metal detector. You can find them.
and a hope and a prayer. And
Well,
No, we
Yeah,
found
we-
ours.
A and B, class A and B still have issues. They still find issues on A and B because they weren't done with corn pins.
All right. Well, I think that, I mean, you've got
Okay.
enough direction, right, Wayne, to take it back and offer some tweaking, and
Okay.
we'll revisit this.
All right. Will
Okay,
do.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Wayne. Sorry.
Hey, that's why you're here. You're here to represent a certain point of view. Okay, so
We're on.
27, right? Okay. Ordinance 2025-07, ordinance adopting city code 1011-8B, retaining walls.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hilliard,
I'll second it.
seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. Councilmember Malkovich,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Item 28, ordinance 2025-8, amending city code 1018-1 B, E, K, and L regarding accessory dwelling units.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Malkovich,
I'll second that.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. Councilmember Hutchings,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
No.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes, because we're doing it to be in compliance with the state.
Doesn't
Councilmember
make-
Hilliard,
Doesn't make it right.
Yes.
Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
The yeas have it. Ordinance, item 29, ordinance 2025-9, amending city code 1242, prohibited illicit discharges, amending section B to include 19 and 20.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Hutchings,
I'm just trying to remember what that one was.
This one allows
basically
us to wash
water.
our cars.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
second
yes.
that.
I'm sitting there, illicit discharge. I was thinking of Dutson.
That's
Shooting.
regulatory.
Yes. But I like, okay, did we have a second yet? If not, I'll
Yes.
second it.
I second it.
Okay.
okay. So who made the motion? Brian?
I did.
Councilmember Hutchings,
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison,
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt,
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard,
Yes.
Councilmember Malkovich.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Item 30, resolution 2025-07, establishing a desire to construct pickleball courts at the Woodland Hills City Park.
Good, Janet.
That's
Janet?
yours.
Go ahead, Janet.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Councilmember Lunt, who I actually thought hated pickleball and property
Yeah.
rights, but
Yeah.
I'm only joking.
Oh,
likes
wait till
to
we
hate
get
it.
out. I
I'm a
play
joke.
pickleball in the morning at
I
8
know.
o'clock.
I tease because I know you can take it. All right, so Councilmember Lunt makes the motion. Who seconded
I
it?
did.
Councilmember Malkovich, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Carries.
We don't have anything for 31 and 32, right?
The large purchase request, just that 16, I guess that's already approved though, right? I mean, so Chris, am I correct on that? That is something that, yeah, the development, the reallocating the money from legal to,
Yep, we can reallocate it, but you're only authorized up to 10,000
Okay.
to make
Oh.
payments.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the money transfer of 16,000 and a little bit more for the redoing of the construction and development standards.
So should we make that up to whatever, I mean,
The-
I put 17,000 in the transfer, but if you want to make it something different, then
17,000.
okay, so that's a motion by Councilmember
I'll
Hilliard,
second.
seconded by Councilmember Malkovich. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. And we're not actually going to be selling anything, right, Ted? These are just on the to-do list. Okay. All right. Hudson did express some desire to enter into a closed session, so we would invite the members of the public. Oh, that's right. Yeah, I guess I got a little ahead of myself.
I'll make
So
a
can we get a
motion.
motion? Okay, a motion by Councilmember Lunt to enter closed session, and this relates to public safety,
I'll
Okay.
second it.
seconded by Councilmember Hilliard. Councilmember Malkovich?
Yes.
Councilmember Hilliard?
Yes.
Councilmember Lunt?
Yes.
Councilmember Kinnison?
Yes.
Councilmember Hutchings?
yes.
Okay, and we are entering closed session. Okay, see you soon. Okay, so we are back in open session or out of closed session. So if we can get a motion to adjourn,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
motion by Councilmember Lunt,
I'll second it.
second by Councilmember Hutchings. We're adjourned.
Perfect.
When's
See you
the
guys.
night?